Alright, so in this demonstration I have this little symbol here. It's a little emblem, and let's just say that the original Adobe Illustrator file went missing and I'm not able to go back to Adobe Illustrator where this was created and take that image and change its size and file format for use in another program. So what do I do? I'm stuck sort of with this unless of course I want to go back in and rebuild it. Well, I am actually going to go in and rebuild it. I'm going to try to rebuild it in such a way that it doesn't take a lot of time or effort to do it. So let's give this a try and see how it works out. So this is the JPEG. I'm going to close the JPEG, go into Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to go File, New, create a new document. There we go. Call this Cafe Logo. And I'm going to leave it at the default sizes for now. Hit OK. Alright, and I got my character palette out. Let's put it over here. And let's go to Window, Paragraphs. Let's get everything ready first of all. Paragraph, there we go. And okay, it's actually already out there. Alright, so then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to place the image. File, Place. And I'm going to go into my desktop, Cafe Deli folder, and there's my bitmap, and I'm going to hit Place. And click Place. There you go. Okay, so this is the actual JPEG, and you can see it's a JPEG because it doesn't have any vector on it other than the actual outline of the bitmap shape. It is not resolution independent, and as a matter of fact, you can already see that it's quite pixelated, and that's not really good. I certainly can't use it. Not only that, but it also has the background texture, which I don't need or want. So again, I'm stuck having to fix this because the original's gone. This is something that you'll come across. Every once in a while you'll find it happening. Somebody will have a piece of art, they won't have the original, won't be able to find the original, so you're stuck either using it or going back in and trying to rebuild it. In this particular case, it was originally built in Illustrator, so I shouldn't have too much trouble going in and making a reasonable facsimile of it that would save me the embarrassment of having to use this piece of garbage. Okay? So this involves just a few different little things. One of the things that it does involve, it involves the Layers panel, it involves the Swatches panel, the character and paragraph panel. So those are the four panels that I will be looking at and will be looking at. It also will be a trace object. I'm going to end up tracing this. So before I go into starting to trace it, let me just go over and show you a couple of things. Number one, if you take a look at your swatches, this is a new document. This is what your swatch panel looks like whenever you get a new document. Now the colors are very nice, but they are not colors that are going to help me in any way, shape, or form in this project. They are not the proper colors. And this is just very generic colors that open up with any new document. Generally, whenever I work on a project like this, the first thing I do is get rid of all of these colors, and then I get my colors that I'm going to be using. Alright, so the way to do that is I come up to the menu and I go down to select all unused. And all colors that are not currently being used, highlight. And I hit the garbage can. It asks me if I want to delete them. I say yes, and they all go away. Perfect. Then I take this little black, for some reason this little gray doesn't go away. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to hit the garbage can and make that go away as well. I'm left with the none registration, which is a form of black, white, and black. Those are perfect. I leave all four of those alone. I don't really do away with any of them. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to create the colors that I'm going to be using here. And it looks like it's kind of this brownish color and this bluish color. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom way in on these so I can get a look at those colors. And you can see they're very pixelated and bitmapped and they're a mess. So I'm going to sample a color, but by bringing myself in closely, I have a better chance of getting the color I'm looking for. The color in brown I'm looking for is right about there. That looks like a nice block of that color. So I'm going to get my eyedropper tool right here, and I'm going to make sure that with the eyedropper tool, I have it set to, let's see, there we go, cancel. All right, let's just click on that center area where the brown is, and I get a nice version of that brown. I think that's probably what I'm looking for. There's two ways that I can make a new swatch. One way is by clicking and dragging this sample up to here. The other way is to come to the drop-down menu and click on New Swatch. I'll do that one first. And what comes up is this. You get your CMYK color. I'm going to hit OK for now, and now I have that color set in there for CMYK. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sample this blue, and it looks like that blue area right there is about what I'm looking for. I don't want this. Alright, let's get that out of here for now. I want that blue area right there. It looks like a pretty good area. I'm going to click on that, and I got the blue area. Now, as I said to you, the other way to do this is to click, hold, and drag this and drop it. And now I have my two colors. So that's really all there is to getting the colors that you want. Now again, I'm pulling colors off of this graphic because I was not given PMS colors to go by or CMYK colors to go by. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to estimate what I think these colors should be. Probably not the best way to go, but when you're working with somebody who doesn't have a good branding environment set up for themselves, you kind of have to do your very best. And that's essentially what we're looking at here. We're looking at a situation where this person hasn't got his branding and standards where it should be. I don't know the colors, and I don't know the font, and I don't have the original graphic. Okay, so that's the first thing that I do. And the next thing is I'm going to come into my layers. I have one layer here, and that's the layer that has my graphic on it. I'm going to add two more layers. The first layer, I'm going to call this my original. The next layer up here, I'm going to call this one my work. And the next layer, the top layer, I'm going to call that my save. Now how this is going to work is I'm going to be working on the work layer, and as I create the elements so that they don't get in the way of my other elements that I'm working on, I'm going to put them up on the save layer. Alright, so that's the first thing. Notice over here, this is, you see the little blue line here? That indicates that this graphic is selected. That little blue mark that you see right there indicates selected art. So what I want to do is I want to come in, I want to go edit, copy. I'm copying that piece of art. Edit, paste in front. And now I have that original pasted in front. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, the one that's selected now is the original, or not the original, the one that's in the front, the one that I just copied. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to drag it up to the work layer. Notice now that that line goes red. If I click this eyeball to hide it, you still see the art, but you notice that when I roll over it, you see how it goes blue? Because that's the one that's on the original layer. Okay? So the original layer is basically my reference point. This is the one I'm going to work on. So let's go to the View menu, Fit Artboard and Window, and if I want, I can come in here and zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so I have my original, and I'm saving the original. I've made a duplicate of it. I'm putting that on the work layer. I'm going to start my process of rebuilding this with that piece of art. So I click on it to select it. I go up to the Object menu, and I come down to Image Trace, Make. And I get this, which isn't too bad. This is what I'm looking for. Now let me just explain to you. There's three different things on here that I'm going for. The one that I'm really going for is the spoon and the fork. The reason I'm going for the spoon and the fork is they will take a lot of work for me to recreate them. And I probably don't want to go to the trouble of doing that simply because I just like to save myself some work. So I'm going to image trace just for the spoon and the fork. The rest of it I'm going to build using basic shapes and fonts in Adobe Illustrator. Alright, so it doesn't look exactly clean. It doesn't look exactly where I want it to be. There are presets up here. I could try different presets on it. But I definitely think that the best way to go would be to open up the panel, which is the image trace panel. I'm going to move the image trace panel over. Now there's three areas that I'm going to play with here. There's the threshold, there's the paths, and there's the noise. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove as much of the noise as I possibly can. So I bring the noise all the way down. It doesn't look like very much happened with it, but let's move on and see what else goes on here. I'm going to go to the corners, and I'm going to bring the corners down from 75. I'm going to start bringing them down. I think I'll bring them down to around 40 something, say 45. Let's try that. Okay, so I brought it down to 45. Still not too much happening here. The paths. I'm going to bring the paths up. I want to bring it up to about maybe 80. Okay, now I'm beginning to see this thing cleaning up a little bit. It's beginning to start looking better. The threshold, I'll bring the threshold up a little bit. Let's go up to about 160. Let's try that. Oops, if I can get it there. That's probably good. 61. That's a little bit much. Let's bring it down a little bit. 55. Okay, so there's my fork and my knife. It's a little bit, they're a little bit funky. There, I've brought the paths up a little bit. Let's bring the corners down a little bit and see if that helps. It does. I got one little kink right there that I'm not happy about. I don't know whether I can get rid of that. Again, this is not going to be a perfect solution. Yeah, that's better. I don't know. Bring it down a little bit. Yeah, I'm just going to play with this until I get something that I'm happy with. That's probably better right there. So my settings are around 155, paths are 74, corners are 45. Let's try bringing it up just a bit. I liked it better down. Yeah, I like it a little bit better. I think I'm going to go with that. All right, so there's my fork and there's my spoon. I'll close this and I'll go Object, Image Trace, Expand. And there I've expanded my object. It's grouped. So I select it, I go Object, Ungroup, and come in here and I click on the fork, hold down the Shift key, click on the spoon, and go Select Inverse, which will basically select everything else but those two objects, and I hit the Delete key. And now it's all gone. The only thing I have is my fork and my spoon. So now I'm going to bring the original back so I can see what's going on. And as you can see, there's my fork and there's my spoon. So I've got that much going here. I'm going to now click on this button right here. Click to target. And I've targeted my fork and my spoon. I'm going to bring it up onto the save layer. So now I can lock that. And I no longer will have a problem with the spoon and the fork. They're safe. They'll sit there on that layer. The original layer I also want to lock because I'm going to work on the work layer. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to try to create that odd shape. And to be honest with you, I'm going to show you an interesting way of doing that. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get the ellipse tool. And I'm going to drag out a circle. And by holding down the Shift key and the space bar, I can move that circle all around. And I'm going to place that circle in such a way that I'm going to try to make that circle the same size. I think that's about it right there. That's about the same size. Let's move it over just a little. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Let me hold that and move it over like that. I'm holding down the space bar to get it where I want it. That's probably pretty good. Let's go back to here. Trying to get it situated just the way I want it. Let's go to the space bar a second, make it a tiny bit smaller, and now bring it down a little bit. That's about where I want it, right there. Okay, and I'm going to switch this around so that I have a black stroke on it. I'm now going to come over here and I'm going to get my direct selection tool. And there's the direct selection tool and the group selection tool, and this is the tear out. And if you click on the tear out, you get this. And you can bring it over, I missed it, you can bring it over closer to your artboard or artwork to play with. Now the key here is that I have anchor points, 4 anchor points, and I can select with the direct selection tool each one of these anchor points, and I can move them around. So I'm going to move this in just a little bit until it hits right about there. And I'm going to take this guy over here, click, and I'm going to drag that one out until it hits right about there. Okay, and now I'm beginning the process of trying to make this shape look like the shape beneath it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start playing around with these control handles. You actually have the ability to drag these control handles around independently. I'm going to drag this one down, and I think as you can see I do that, what's happening is my line is distorting. Okay? Now I probably went too far with that. Let's go back up a little bit with it. And I'm going to drag this one in somewhat too. I can drag all of them in. I'm going to just keep dragging these things around and making sure that I keep them level until I get the shape looking sort of like the shape that I'm looking for. Do the same thing with this. I'll drag this control handle over a little bit, and I'll drag this control handle up a little bit, and I'm going to try to get that shape to look as much like the shape that's beneath it as possible. I'm going to come over to this one, and I'm going to drag this one down a little bit, hold down the shift key and drag it down a little bit until I get it where I want it, right about like that. Maybe drag this one over a little bit until I get the shape doing what I want it to do. It's beginning to look sort of like the shape that's beneath it. Click on this guy, drag it over somewhat. There we go. And it's a little off here. I don't know whether I want to go. I guess I want to go with this one. Let's try bringing this one down just a little bit. Bring it down just somewhat. Shift key to bring it down a little bit. There we go. And that's probably, got to bring it right about there. That's good. And this probably is a little bit too far in. Let's come back out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so there we go. I got something that's very similar to it. See? If you look at this, it actually is pretty similar to that shape. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. I'm going to select the shape. I'm going to come up here to my swatches, and I have the fill forward. I'm going to click on the blue. And now I have my blue. Click on the black and remove the black. And then I'm going to click on my, actually come back here to my layers panel and unlock these two layers, unlock the save layer. I'm going to click on the fork, click on the spoon. I am going to go to my swatches and I'm going to make them brown. Okay, so now, I'm sorry, I got that wrong one. I want it on the fill. Let's bring the fill forward. There we go. So now I have my piece of art in the background there, my little odd shaped plate. I have my spoon, I have my fork. So what I need to do now is I need to create the shadowing or the highlighting on the spoon and the fork. So I'm going to select the spoon, select the fork, and edit copy, edit paste in back. I'm going to paste the piece that I did in the back, and I'm just going to move it over one, maybe two. I think two might be too much, but let's try it anyway. And I'm going to click on my color of white for that, and I get that. And now if I come in here, let me close this, and let me close this, and let me open the layers. If you hide the background layer, there you go. You can see I got a pretty good representation of the fork, the spoon, and that piece that's in the middle. That's basically how I do this. So let's bring the original back for 1 second and let's finish this up because we're very close to being done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the text that you see here to Cafe Deli. Again, I have to let you know that I don't have the exact font on my computer that was used originally. I have something that's, I feel, very close. So I'm going to use that font. So I'm going to hit my type tool, I'm going to click, place my cursor, and I'm going to type Cafe, C-A-F-E, all caps, select it, and I believe the font that I'm looking for is G-E-O, I think it's Georgia. Yeah, Georgia, only I want it to be bold. There we go, bold. Okay, and I'm going to come in here real quickly and just grab the free transform tool, and I'm going to hold the shift key down and I'm going to start making that bigger until I get it to about the size I want, which will be about like that, maybe a little bit bigger. Go a little bit bigger with it, a little bit bigger. There we go. That's pretty good. Alright, and then I'm going to move it until it's positioned where the other is. I think it's got to go back this way. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the actually, let's go to the View menu. I'll show you how to do this. Go to the View menu, go to Rulers, and Show Rulers. I've got my rulers, and I'm going to drag out a couple of guides. The guides are going to be placed here, and the other guide will be placed right there. And the reason I'm doing this is so I can hide the original layer and I can see how this cafe is going to work. So with the cafe selected, I'm going to open up the character panel, and right here is my tracking. And what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start tracking this out. And you can see the numbers, I'm tracking it out. It's going up, and it's going to keep going until I reach that point on the other side. I don't know exactly what the number is, so I'm just going to let it run its course until it gets there. And it's almost there. There we go. There it is. So there's the cafe. And now I'm going to come in and I'll bring my original back, and I'm going to copy this, edit, copy, edit, paste in place, and then I'm going to bring it down, and there is the deli. Now the deli is somewhat smaller, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start making it smaller, and I think that's probably pretty good right there. So then I'm going to move it out of the way for a second, go to the view menu, guides, and I'm going to unlock the guides because I want to move them. So I'm going to click on this, bring this guide over here, click on this, bring this guide over here, and bring my cafe back, just like that. And then I'm going to go back to my character, and I'm going to start bringing the tracking back. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way, I'm sorry. Go back to tracking, bring the tracking back until I hit right about there. And the only problem I have with this right now is, let's go to my, I'm going to shift select the cafe. So I have the cafe and the deli both selected. I'm going to go to my swatches. I'm going to click brown. And now I have my logo recreated. Go to the layers panel, hide the original, deselect everything, go to the view menu, go guides, and hide guides, and there is my recreated logo. That's how I did that using Adobe Illustrator. I hope you find this helpful, and I think you should give it a try. Thank you for watching.